Hey everyone, and welcome to the Reel and Replay channel. It's crazy to think that we're almost done with 2025. We are halfway through the month of December, and here in South Central Kentucky, in the state of Kentucky, you have to prepare for all four seasons in just one day. You may wake up and it's blistering cold, but by lunch it's 60 degrees outside. And we just come through a pretty, miserable cold spell. And then today it's like 50 degrees outside and it's pretty comfortable. So the fishing can change drastically from day to day, from week to week. We don't have constant weather like some of the southern states have for the most part, but it is ever changing. But I will tell you this, there are some things that don't change very much for me fishing this region that I fish in South Central Kentucky and Tennessee border. I have some year-round lures that I throw that are tried and true, proven through years of experience, regardless of what lake I'm on in this area, what the water temperature is, clarity, none of that matters so much with these year-round lures. So what I thought I would do is a 3-part series where I break down each one of those lures in a little bit of detail instead of cramming them all together. And so I'm going to start with the one that I've been catching the most bass on here in the month of December, with water temperatures in the upper 40s, hovering around 50 degrees right now. But those water temps are getting ready to come down drastically, and they'll even get into the mid 30s, close to freezing sometimes here in the Commonwealth. But what I'm going to talk about in this first video is the one that I've been using lately, and it's nothing more than an old school shaky head. And if you've watched any of my recent videos, you will see that that's primarily what I've been catching them on. And this technique is not a high skill technique. It is maybe not the most flashy technique, but it works. And I know it works because I catch bass on this shaky head year round. Now, let me tell you how I have this set up, starting first with the rod and reel. I really like these Bass Pro Shops Pro Qualifier combinations. I have these not only in the spinning rod, but my bait casters as well. This is a 7-foot medium rod. The action is fast, but 7-foot medium because it's finesse. I don't want it to be medium heavy. Don't want it to be heavy, just medium. That's what we want there with the rod, and that seems to work really well with this application. The reel is the 3000. It's like the medium size reel, which is good for this application. You don't have to go to the larger 4000 one, but you most certainly can. But this one is a 3000 or a 300, maybe in some of the other models, depending on what brand it is. Gear ratio on this is 5:1, so it is perfect for this shaky head technique. So that is the rod and reel that I use. Next thing, let's talk about line. I backfill my spinning rod for this particular application, and really any application that I have on a spinning rod, I typically do this. I backfill it with 10-pound braid, and then I tie on a leader of 8-pound fluorocarbon, sometimes 10-pound if the fishing's not too tough. I just simply tie a surgeon's knot on there. This one's a little frayed just from being used, but a surgeon's knot is not as complicated as some of those other knots. And you can look that up on how to tie that, and see someone that's a lot better at it than I am in tying knots, because they got big fat fingers and hands, and sometimes it takes me a little bit to get those knots tied up, and it's just it's ugly. So I'm not going to show you how to do that. You can look that up, but it's called a surgeon's knot. It has good holding strength. It's pretty simple to tie. It's not going to take you a long time to tie it, and it goes through the eyes just fine. The only thing I will say is that when I'm tying on my fluorocarbon leader line, I just want to make sure that when I reel this lure up, and I can kind of do that right now, when I reel this lure up all the way, I want that knot to stop before it ever gets into my reel, and that be, and you can kind of see it there because it's frayed. You know, I want that knot to stop before it ever gets into my reel. I never want that leader knot going into my reel. And then you can see, if I were to bring this down, that my lure is several inches outside of my lead eye, which is perfect, okay? So whenever you're tying on a leader knot, which I advise to backfill those spinning rods with braid, that will get rid of line twist and the line coming out of the reel. I used to try to throw straight fluorocarbon, and it causes nothing but a whole lot of headache, and you can't cast it as far. I know there's some people that claim that you get more bites if you go straight fluorocarbon. I just don't know that that's very accurate. I don't even know how you would prove that. It's not something that's factual. It's not something that can be proven by, any type of stats or anything of that nature. I catch fish just fine having braid backfilled on the spinning rod with the fluorocarbon leader that's as long as my rod, but I definitely don't want that knot going into my reel. So the line, 8-pound leader line when the fishing conditions get tough. Lighter line, for whatever reason, always seems to get more bites when fishing is tough. Something about the way the bait glides. And that's where the next thing comes in. Weight. When the fishing is tough, 16th ounce, okay? Pretty light. I want a 16th ounce offset jig head, and you can see, take that off, it's an offset hook there, 16th of an ounce. When the fishing is really good in the spring and the water temperatures start to come up, spring, summertime around here, it's pretty good. They're very active. You can catch a lot of fish. I'll bump that up to 10-pound line for my leader with an 1/8 of an ounce jig head. But in these tougher conditions, 16th of an ounce offset jig head is what I prefer. I don't like those screw-on jig heads. Just think that they create a lot of issues. Worm-wise, I like a trick worm from Zoom. Green pumpkin, black, June bug. Those are all good colors. And then obviously whenever I put that worm on there, and I could show you this, this jig head's actually beat up pretty good, because you can take a look at it there. If you can see it, it's pretty scarred up because it just catches fish. But whenever you go to rig this up, these Zoom trick worms, they have a flat side. I want that flat side pointing toward the gap of the hook. And I'm just going to go straight down the center. And another thing is, I'll bite off or cut off a couple little rings at the top so that it's flat. And then what I'm going to do is just take that through the center about 1/8 of an inch. It's going to be as long as that top of the hook right before the jig head. So whenever I put that on there, I get toward the top, spin it around, and you can see it sits in there really nicely. So it's about 1/8 of an inch probably. And then what I do is I'll take the worm, I'll kind of pinch it where I see that it's gonna match up with the hook, and then I'll just simply set it on top of it, right in the center, come through, all the way through, all right? And then I'm just gonna kind of pick it up and skin hook it, okay? I'm gonna skin hook it so I can make it somewhat weedless, all right? And that's what it's gonna look like. It's, once again, not super flashy, not super sexy, but this is a fish catching machine. Tough days, good days, it doesn't matter. This shaky head flat out catches bass. And if you haven't been using this, or you're just new and you're trying to figure some things out, get you a spinning rod, kind of close to what I'm telling you, something with a medium power, around 7 feet. You go a little shorter, a little longer, but start throwing this shaky head. So that's the rod and reel that I use. The line that I talked about in terms of what knot I use, leader line, the lure, and the jig head. And I'll show those to you in the packages in case you don't know what I'm talking about. These are just Bass Pro Shops tungsten offset jig heads that I pick up at we have Cabela's here, but Bass Pro Shops, Cabela's, any other models work. I just prefer this type of hook when I'm fishing a shaky head, just because it's the hooks that I've used and I have confidence in them. And then Zoom trick worms, okay? Whether it's green pumpkin, June bug, which is more that bluish, kind of blackish flake, or just a straight black. But more times than not, I go with this green pumpkin. And once again, it's just the lure that I've used that I have confidence in, and confidence a lot of times is key. Let's talk about where to fish this. I will fish it, and in Kentucky, and a lot of the lakes that I fish, a lot of bluff walls, a lot of rock. We don't have a lot of mats and grass and other types of things that you see in those southern states, at least not in the area that I fish. A lot of rock, riprap, bluff walls, laydowns. You have a lot of that. So I will fish it off points, okay? So rocky points. I'll fish it off the middle of that point, off each side of those points, up on the bank, off a little bit. I'm not using forward-facing sonar, so I'm going to fish those areas and see if I can't run into some bass. So points, bluff walls, just like a jig. I'll get parallel and I'll throw it down bluff walls and drag it or shake it like a shaky head. But I don't just fish it like an actual shaky head where you sit there and just shake it in one place. I'll take that and almost fish it like a jig, where I raise it up and let it fall, okay? Reel in the slack, raise it up and let it fall. Or I'll drag it from side to side real slow. So you can fish this, and I do, just like I fish a jig. I don't always just sit there and shake it in place. Now, if you are going to sit and shake it in place, slack line. You want the line to be slack as you're shaking it. So points, bluff walls, ditches, okay? Especially in the winter. You come into a spot and you see where a ditch was, during summer pool. Winter pool, obviously the lakes around here are down. I can clearly see where a ditch was. Those little areas where water was funneling in, now it's drawn down. I find a lot of bass hang out in that spot, so I'll throw it in those ditches. And I'm not usually fishing real deep, because once again, I'm not using forward-facing sonar. I'm usually beating the banks, fishing off of points. I'm looking at maps and looking for channel swings that swing up against bluff walls. That's the type of fishing that I'm doing. And I have found that those fish are starting to be the types of fish that aren't as pressured. I feel like more and more people are trying to get offshore and find those groups of fish in their forward-facing sonar. So shaky head, not going to be super glamorous, but I promise if you learn to fish it, and if you just pick it up and keep fishing it, you're going to find that you'll catch a lot of fish, even on those tough fishing days. So I believe I went through everything. We talked about rod, reel setup, talked about line, we talked about the jig head, the weight of the jig head. We talked about the actual lure, the Zoom trick worm, and we talked about where to fish the shaky head. So in my opinion, one of my top 3 year-round lures is an old school shaky head. You can't go wrong with it. It is a fish catching machine, like I said earlier. You just have to learn how to use it. You just have to pick it up and you have to throw it, and you have to do that over and over again. Now, one other thing as I'm sitting here thinking about this, drag. This is not a power technique. It's a finesse technique with light line. If you got your drag all the way up to where you can't pull that line off, you go to set the hook on a fish, and you're going to either A, snap that line, or B, lose that fish, because it's not a power application. It's not a jig where you do a violent hook set and just start reeling and drag that fish out with heavy line and heavy power. This is finesse. So you got to check your drag. You want that drag to be pretty light, okay? You set the hook pretty much straight up and down is how you set the hook on this. You want that drag. See, even that's still too tight. I'm going to go a little further. I want it to come off pretty easy. That's pretty close. Maybe just a little bit more. Yeah. So that's pretty good. Now here's the deal. You can catch a monster on this type of setup with this light line, only if you have the proper the proper drag settings and you use your reel accordingly, and if you don't, you'll lose those fish. So drag, and I'm glad I thought about that before we ended this, drag has got to be pretty loose. Let that fish run a little bit. It's going to make a run. When the fish makes a run with this, let it run. Don't try to jerk it. Don't try to overpower it. You've already set the hook. The hook is in there. Just kind of keep a little tension on the rod, but let that fish run with it. It can run, it can jump, it can shake its head, it can do everything it wants. If you've got a good hook set, it's not coming out, because this is going to allow that. This is why it's that finesse application. It's going to allow that hook to stay in there and allow that fish to run. If it's a big fish on this setup, it may take you 5 minutes to reel that fish in. Don't get impatient. Let that line run until that fish tires itself out. And then you can reel. When you start to feel the fish, it runs, you're going to let it run. Quit reeling so much. Just be ready. Then when it stops, reel it in a little bit more. And this is just something that you have to practice. You have to practice it. You have to do it over and over again. You may find early on that you lose a lot of fish on this application because you haven't dialed in the settings. But the more and more you use it, just like I've done over the years, the more and more I understand. I adjust my reel on the fly. If I feel like it's too tight, I'll loosen it up. If I feel like it's too loose, I'll tighten it up a little bit while I'm fighting the fish. And that's just staying calm. It's using your tools the way they're meant to be used, but it's just practice. So hopefully this gives some insight on how to set up a shaky head, how to use a shaky head. And all I can say is if you're not using that, start using it. You'll find that you catch a lot of fish. And you'll be surprised at the quality of fish that you catch. You'll catch some smaller ones on this. This is a diverse type of lure. It's not just going to catch the biggest fish. I mean, you'll catch some smaller fish on it, but you'll catch some big fish on it too. And it's for me right now my go-to technique here in the month of December. It's the one that I have been using the most and catching a lot of my fish. And if you haven't seen the last couple of videos, the shaky head early December video that was posted maybe within the last week or two, and then the Del Hollow one, the most recent one, just kind of check that out. And there's some first-hand viewpoints, first-person viewpoints on me catching them and maybe how I'm using the reel and the drag settings that you can check out to see that firsthand. So hopefully that helps. God bless each and every one of you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Like, subscribe, share, do all that good stuff. And we'll catch you next time for part 2 of year-round lures that I think works to catch bass regardless of the situation. We'll catch you next time.